Tiger fans, what's going on, guys? So, this week in Tiger baseball, let's jump right on into it. Again, I got my list. That way we can go and stay right on topic. So, this past week, kind of a short week, only 5 games played. They had 2 with San Fran. Actually, a lot of off days. They had an off day Monday, 2 with San Fran, off day Thursday, and then had a 3-game set with Texas this past week. So, they took 1 of 2 from San Fran. They lost the first game of the series. Game 2 was actually the best game of the series. San Fran came in. They had Logan Webb on the mound, and Logan Webb was actually no-hitting the Tigers through 4 innings, and the Tigers ended up knocking him out in the 5th by dropping a 5 spot on him. And I was really impressed because I wasn't able to watch the game, but I was able to listen to it. But they scored, I think, 4 runs with 2 outs, and it was just great at bat after great at bat. And this past week, the Tigers' offense is the best it's looked all season, statistically and just at bat to a bat basis. There was a few guys hot all at the same time. The catalyst to the lineup, obviously Riley Greene, just had an amazingly good week. So they go into, after they take 1 of 2 from take a split with San Francisco, they go into Texas. And the first game of the series, basically, this game really wasn't anything special. So in the 9th inning, Riley Greene smacks, and I mean smacks, an absolute moonshot out into right field at the new Texas ballpark. And let's talk about the new Texas ballpark for a second. It looks horrible. I don't know how anyone likes that place compared to the old ballpark in Arlington. I understand why they built it, and I understand the whole premise of why it's there. But, oh, my God, the park looks so freaking bad. And how they have it, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. If you go on Google Maps, the old ballpark is directly across the street from it. Now, I don't know if any of you guys have ever been to Arlington before, but I actually went there one time for a convention, and because there's a convention center right across the street from the old ballpark. You could walk to it. So I didn't necessarily sneak into the old ballpark. They had a sign for a job fair because they were trying to hire people before the start of the season, because I went there in April, like 2 days before the season started. And I just walked in there, pretended like I was going to the job fair, and I walked around the ballpark for like 10 minutes or so. Walked around, looked at some of the stands and whatnot, took a couple pictures, and I walked out. And that park was really beautiful. And that area is kind of weird because you have Cowboys Stadium directly across the street from Globe Life, and now you have the new Globe Life directly across the street from the old Globe Life. So that area is kind of weird, but that new ballpark looks horrible. I just don't understand how anyone likes it. But Greene went off this series. This is the second time in the last 2 weeks that Riley Greene has caught a ball out in front, not trying to take the ball the other way, just absolute rip pull power, 411 feet. Tigers ended up losing that game 6-7. Came back but scored 6 runs. Next game of the series, they absolutely obliterated the Rangers 11-2, scored 11 runs. Riley Greene in that first game had half the cycle. He had a home run and a triple. He actually scored a Little League home run because they threw the ball away, and he scored on his triple. But he had a big series. Riley Greene hit almost 500 for the whole series. Riley Greene had to hit 400 for the week. He's had 2 home runs in the last week. He's only struck out a handful of times, just had a few walks. His plate appearances at bat to a bat is so good. Like, this kid is such a stud. You guys have heard me talk about him so much. So they took game 2, absolute laugher. And then today, again, it was an absolute laugher. It was 9-1 at one point. Then Alex Lane comes out in the 9th or 8th, who's been really good, gives up 3 runs because, who was it? Seager went back-to-back with Lowe. And they're like, okay, whatever, fine. And then all of a sudden they drop 3 on in the 8th. And then all of a sudden Gregory Soto gives up a second home run of the year, and it's 9-8. And I'm just sitting there with my jaw on the ground like, what the hell just happened? Because it was a lapper of a game. You're listening to the ball game on the radio like I was, because I can't listen to Matt Shepard. Brian Holiday and Dan Dickerson talk about solo shots don't kill you. Yeah, but what kills you is 3-run shots in the 9th. What kills you is giving up almost the game. That was almost, if they would have lost that game, that would have been a worse loss when they lost to the Guardians, when they gave up 5 runs on the 4th out. It was horrible. So they ended up taking 2 of 3. Overall positive week. They scored 6 runs or more at every game the last 4 games, which is the first time they've done that all year. The offense has been really good. For some reason, the Tigers have really beat up the Rangers this year. Doesn't make any sense because if you look at some of the Tigers' biggest offensive explosions, Riley Greene's first game was against the Rangers. I was there. They scored 14 runs. The next day, I think they scored 11 or 12 runs. They swept the Rangers when they were at Comerica Park. Or no, that was a 4-game set, I believe. They took 3 of 4 from the Rangers last time they were at Comerica Park, but they scored, I think, 7 runs or more 3 of the 4 games. So for some reason, on a Rangers team, that their pitching is okay. It's not great. I mean, they got like Martin Perez and whatnot. They have been able to really put some runs on them this year, and the Tigers have really handled them and popped a lot of runs on them. For a team that has struggled to score runs for as much as the Tigers have, I think they might have broke the 400 run mark for the season. They have really, really beat up on the Rangers this year, and they ended up taking. They could have swept, but they ended up taking 2 or 3, split a series with the Giants and whatnot. Erod, I forgot to mention him in my last video. Erod came back and has now pitched 2 really good starts in a row. He's looked great. Drew Hutchinson, he's been kind of like an unsung hero, I guess, because he's been cut 4 times by the Tigers, and now he's made a bunch of really good starts in a row. The only thing with him is I can see him being Willie Peralta 2.0, because if you remember when the Tigers got Willie Peralta last year, he was a starter. And then the Tigers ended up signing him back really early in spring training this past year, and then they ended up delegating him to the bullpen. And they ended up ultimately releasing him. I think they released him 2 weeks ago. But I could see the same fate for Drew Hutchinson, even though Hutchinson has kind of played that role that Peralta played, because Peralta had made a lot of good starts for the Tigers in the last 2 months of the season last year. I could kind of see the same thing happening to Drew Hutchinson, because Hutchinson has pitched well. His walks have gotten a little bit better. His strikeouts are okay. He kind of gets it done with contact. He doesn't have the same stuff that he had when he was with Toronto when he was young. But considering the Tigers have used 16 starters, and this guy's been cut 4 different times, you can't really complain. He's got just a tick over 4 ERA. He might have knocked it under 4 with today's start. But you can't let him go more than 5 innings, because every time Hinch gives him that third go-around, getting into the 5th, 6th, it gets really dicey like it did today, because he had given up a couple home runs in a row and then gave up a walk. So Hutchinson, I could see him being Willie Peralta 2.0 at the end of the year, where the Tigers just end up getting rid of him, because he's been okay, but whoever we get for general manager next, I don't know. I think there's going to be a lot of cleaning house. Oh, also, Jeimer Candelario, great series. This is the best Jeimer swung the bat since the All-Star break. He had 2 home runs this series, almost had 3 home runs, 1 hit off the top of the wall. He had a double today. Great at-bats. Really good series for Jeimer. Broke out. Kerry Carpenter also had a really good game. Kerry Carpenter, I don't think, has a hit at Comerica Park yet. For some reason, he's able to really hit on the road, but he's not been able to hit at Comerica Park. Hasn't really been getting that much playing time lately. Victor Reyes has been swinging the bat really, really well, so it's been hard for A.J. Hinch to put him in the lineup, and then Miguel Cabrera's been only playing 1 game a series, and they really don't like Kerry Carpenter out and left. Kerry's only played the outfield, I think, 3 times since he's been called up, so he's been really inconsistent with his ABs. So, I mean, to see him, he ripped a double, and he had, I think he had 3 hits today. So, maybe it'll help him getting some more ABs and ripping it. Maybe it'll help him spark a little bit more consistency. But, man, the guy needs a hit at Comerica Park. He hasn't hit at Comerica Park since he's been called up. It's like, what is Kerry Carpenter? Just like, you're only going to play him during road games for the rest of the season? It doesn't make any sense. Because, like, him and like Cody Clemens, too, but Cody Clemens has had more of a look than Kerry Carpenter, and Cody Clemens has already been pretty much pigeonholed into his role as a utility guy, third base, second base, first base, outfield, and he's not really shown that much with the stick, but he's shown really good defensive abilities, made really good plays at third and second, and he can put him in the outfield, and he's okay. So I don't think he's going to get that many more looks, but Carpenter, man, he just has that swing, and he has that power, way more power than Clemens does. And it's like, I just wish he would hit it a little bit more, because I want to see him get more at-bats, because I think there's more home runs in there than what he's shown. And, I mean, he hits the ball, and he hits the ball hard, and he hits the ball far. And he's a gap hitter, too. So, I don't know. But it was a great series in Texas. The offense really came alive, and it was fun to watch. Today was like your butthole puckered up. You hope that Soto didn't blow it. Really, the Tigers' bullpen in general didn't blow it as good as it's been all year, but they ended up taking 2 or 3. And then they split with the Giants. A little bit of notes here before we get into the main topic of the video, before we end it. Spencer Torkelson now has 5 home runs down in Toledo. Last week he was 6 for 18. You guys, when I read you these numbers, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, whatever, fine. Guys, he was hitting like 177 2 weeks ago. and his OPS was like 640. These numbers I'm going to tell you right now over a 2-week span just goes to show you he's been hitting the ball better. Today, again, 2 more hits, a walk, hit his 5th home run since he's been called back down. He's had a couple of doubles this past week. He has brought his average up from almost under 170 and a 630 OPS. He is now hitting 234 with a 752 OPS. He is finally starting to put together consistent plate appearances. The power has been there. The extra base power has been there. He had another walk-off hit. He had a walk-off home run 2 weeks ago. He had another walk-off hit the other day in Toledo. It was a walk-off single. Absolute piss missile off the wall. Today, right center field, gap shot. Boom. Absolutely nailed it, crushed it. Right center field gap. The swings are getting better. The strikeouts are coming down. He's walking again. He's got power to both fields. If you watch his home runs so far, he's had home runs to center. He's had a few absolute bull shots. He's had home runs to right center. You look at some of his doubles he's hit. He's had doubles to right center, doubles to center field. Torkelson is like Miggy, and I've said this a lot, that Torkelson can pull the ball and hit it 5,000 yards, but he is a guy that is a right center hitter. And Miguel Cabrera, his whole career, is a right center hitter, opposite field hitter that can hit the other way with power and hit home runs. Miguel Cabrera, if you look at Miguel Cabrera, when Miguel Cabrera was Miguel Cabrera, that's enough, a lot of Miguel Cabreras, most of his home runs were right field, right center, center field. Miguel Cabrera, if he would have been just a straight-up pull hitter the bulk of his career, he would have hit 600 home runs. But the guy is not a pull hitter. He's a right center hitter and a right field hitter. Look what he had last year. He was going for the 500 homers, all right field. And Torkelson, he can rip a ball and he can pull a ball, but when Torkelson is Torkelson, and you look at his college highlights, you look at when he's had some of his best swings this past year, like there was a game in Pittsburgh where Torkelson almost hit one out. I mean, it was a piss missile blast. Right center field, hit off the top of the fence. When Torkelson is swinging well and he's got his A swing, he's right center field. So to see him hitting balls that direction, right center to center, that means he's on time. That means he's letting the ball get deep. That means he's making really good contact. And that's what they need. He's hitting fastballs again. He's not missing them. And that was his biggest thing. And the thing I feel bad about now is Harold Castro has just been absolutely annihilating the ball. Harold Castro, because Riley Greene has not been up all season because of his injury, I would say Harold Castro is by far the MVP of the Tigers this past year. No doubt about it. There has been not another player on this entire team that has hit as consistently as him, that's put up as good as at-bats consistently as him, that has been as pesky as a hitter as he's been, and has come up as big as he's been consistently. Like today, he had a 3-run double, almost a grand slam. Harold Castro has been so damn good this season. So I would say he's been the best hitter, but with that, there's really not a spot for Torkelson to play because even with Scope out, they've done a really good job of filling those spots. Harold Castro's done more than a good enough job to keep earning an everyday shot and everyday playing time because he's their best hitter. I mean, where are you going to put Castro if Torkelson comes back? Second base, Scope's about to be back this homestand. And you're not going to move Jamer right now because Jamer's hot. Jamer's been super inconsistent and up and down, but Jamer's hot right now. So you're not going to sit there and pluck Castro off of first and then put him at third to allow Torkelson to get some at-bats. And Kerry Carpenter is pretty much, Miguel Cabrera after his one game of the series. He DHs the entirety of the rest of the time. And you're not going to put him at second, and they have enough second basemen to, do whatever they need to do. Scope needs a day off. They have Willie Castro. They have Cody Clemens. Zach Short's still up for the time being because I think he's going to get sent back down. And that's another video for another day. I love Zach Short, but I think his time's on the Tigers about done. But, excuse me. So there's really no spot for Torkelson right now, even though he's hitting well. And I don't know how he's going to get playing time even when he comes back up. Because it's a kind of a quandary. Because the Tigers he's an everyday player. He got everyday reps when he was in the big leagues. He's getting everyday reps at Toledo. And it's kind of a quandary because September is this week. The roster span this week. I fully expect Spencer Torkelson to be back up on the Tigers September 1st. 100%, no doubt in my mind. Maybe even Ryan Kreidler. But this brings to a weird spot. What do you do about the infield? I think it means Jamer's got to have a shorter leash. If he doesn't hit, then he gets less reps. You give more reps to Harold Castro at third. You pop Torkelson back at first. What does this mean for guys like Cody Clemens and Kerry Carpenter? Victor Reyes keeps hitting. You can't not play Victor Reyes. And Akil Badu's swings have looked a lot better over the last 2 weeks. He's been getting some hits. What do you do about Kerry Carpenter getting some ABs in his playing time? How does Cody Clemens ever even get it more than a start a week? Especially if Scope's in there. It does. I don't know. With these guys coming up, and I know they want to give Kreidler a look, and I know for 100%, mark it down, guys. Take it to the bank, cash the check. Torkelson will be back September 1st. He is coming back to the big leagues. I just don't see how he fits in right now with how good Harold Castro's been. Jamer's hitting better. You still got guys like Clemens and Carpenter and Reyes and Willie Castro you still got to put in there because Willie Castro's been, he's been kind of pesky. And Victor Reyes had an 11-game hitting streak. So I don't know. And I hope it doesn't hurt his development, only starting maybe 3 times a week over the last 4 weeks of the season because, Harold Castro has been so good. It's going to be up to Hinch, and Hinch is going to have to figure out the merry-go-round and where everyone fits, but it's kind of a problem. But if they can get some guys that are consistently hitting like they have this past week, and they can consistently put out a lineup that can score 5 runs, I'm okay with the merry-go-round of starters because watching this bullshit of what we watched for 90% of this season where they can't even average 3 runs a game, I'm okay with them having a merry-go-round and having a hard time to find spots for guys that are hitting versus, almost 3/4 of your lineup is hitting under 200, and it's been horrible to watch. All right. So this video is running longer than I thought, but I want to end this video with, I made a list of everything. I'm so sick of hearing about everything negative. I talk about enough negative bullshit. Everyone talks about enough negative bullshit. You go on Twitter, everyone complains. It just complains. I get it. They suck. They're going to lose 100 games this year. I'm tired of hearing about it. I wanted to put some kind of a positive spin that we could say looking back on this 2022 Tiger season thus far this year. So this is my list. I was trying to do 10, but I couldn't do 10 because of obvious reasons. I couldn't think of anything more than 7. So here's my list in no particular order of all the positives that I have found this year out of the 2022 Tigers. So we can at least have something nice to talk about in the comments. Riley Greene, for obvious reasons. I don't need to reiterate. You guys know how much I love him. He's my favorite player on the Tigers. He's been my favorite player on the Tigers before he was on the Tigers. And everyone who's talking about, he's not that good and he's not going to reach the ceiling that he thought and Riley Greene's not the player that I thought. Yeah, look at this past week. Look at the adjustment. Look at some of the pull shots. Tell that to Shohei Ohtani, how much he thinks about Riley Greene's power and his abilities, his extra base power, and how good he's been in center field. Riley Greene. Good versatility. The Tigers have, because they've been so bad this year, so many guys have gotten so many looks, and some of these guys that have been on the Tigers for a couple of years that we really didn't know that much about have gotten a lot of looks. Whether it be Victor Reyes, Harold Castro, Willie Castro. They've been able to put in a lot of guys that not necessarily are going to be your starters going forward, but guys you could confidently put on your bench and you could start a few days a week and be okay with it. Like back in the day when they had Ramon Santiago and Don Kelly, baby. These guys, hitting Harold Castro is been so good. I love Harold Castro so much. He's great. And guys like Willie Castro, his versatility, as much as I dog him in the outfield, I mean, this guy can go out and truck dudes out from right field regularly. His arm is so strong, and he can play a good second base. And he's a little bit of a pesky hitter, and he's hit some big home runs. Willie Castro has popped some balls in the seats. I like him a lot. And Victor Reyes, as much as I dogged him, he got a switch hitter from both sides of the plate. He comes up big. Like, he can hit ball. He hits his best in the later innings of the game. So the Tigers have had really good versatility. The issue is they have too many guys like those guys. You don't need 9 bench guys starting on your team. You need, your bench guys who are your bench guys, and you have your starters that are good. And that's been the issue. They don't have the starters that are good. But, all right, another positive. Chris Fetter in the bullpen. Chris Fetter has done absolute amazing work. This has been the best bullpen the Tigers have ever had in my lifetime, and it's not even close. Not even the 06 team was as good as this team's bullpen. Go look up the stats. That 06 team was good, and it had a decent enough bullpen, but they had Todd Jones closing out ball games. And the way a bullpen was used in '06 is not even close to the way it's used in 22. Because in '06, guys were going 7 innings way more than it is now, where it's 5 and fly, and where it is you're using up to 3 relievers a game. It wasn't like that back in 2006 when you had Kenny Rogers and even a young Justin Verlander. Go look at his game logs, his rookie season, how many innings he threw. You don't see that anymore. Or you had Nate Robertson, Mike Maroff, Jeremy Bonderman. This bullpen this year has been the best one I have ever watched. The only thing that even comes close to it is the 2011 bullpen. And the only reason why the 2011 bullpen is even close is because Jose Valverde that year went 49 for 49, 51 for 51 if you include the postseason. And then they had Joaquin Benoit behind him. Those two guys were absolute freaking dynamite that 2011 season. They were really good together. So, but they've built such a good bullpen out of guys that the Tigers have acquired or, have developed through their system, whether it be Joe Jimenez or like Alex Lang or getting back Will Vest from the Seattle Mariners. And like they've had so many reclamation projects like Joe Jimenez. He's done such a good job after, he really should have been released by the Tigers a few times. But the Tigers kept with him. And, this has been his best season. He's looked great. And guys like Lang and Will Vest and how good Andrew Chafin has been, he's just been so good. And as much as everyone hates Gregory Soto because he walks a lot of people, the guy's blown, I think, 3 saves all year. And he gave up his second home run of the season. Just because he gives up some walks and he allows and it makes it a little bit close. Listen, 3 blown saves is 3 blown saves. It don't matter if it's pretty. It matters what the end result is. And 90% of the time or 92% of the time, it's been he's getting the job done. And that's all that counts with minimal power against him. The biggest enemy to Gregory Soto is Gregory Soto. If Gregory Soto can just get a little bit more command, that guy would be one of the best closers in all of baseball because he has got the stuff. Just he loses command of his slider and he is just erratic with his fastball. But you know something? He's able to get big outs. And as much as Tiger fans don't want to hear this, the numbers speak for themselves. He's literally allowed a second home run of the season today. And he's been damn near perfect for save opportunities. Now, if you want to make any kind of argument against him, if he would have been on a better team where he got 50 save chances, I don't know if that Gregory Soto would have made it a whole season getting 50, 51 save chances because I think he does walk too many guys. And because he walks so many guys, he's his biggest enemy, and I think he would put himself in position to fail. But since he's gotten a sprinkled amount of chances, because I think he's only got like 28 or 29 saves, he's done a good job. The whole bullpen in general. Better defense. The defense this year is astronomically better than it was the last couple years. Up the middle has been so good. Baez has really done a nice job over the last few weeks after AJ Hinch benched him at getting his feet moving towards his target, throwing clean strikes to first base instead of freaking airing it out to the hot dog guy in the front row on the first base side because his throws are bad. They get really bad. And Jonathan Scope, for as much as he's been horrible with the bat, he's been very good with the glove. The Tigers up the middle defensively, whether it be Riley Greene and just his amazing ability to read balls off the bat and get good first jumps, they have done very, very well up the middle. And then, like, their outfielders' arms, like Willie Castro's got such a strong arm from either corner position and whatnot like that. And Torkelson was really good at first base. The defensive metrics don't love him, but the eye test does. I mean, that guy saved, especially when Baez was at his peak of throwing balls away. That guy saved Baez a lot of errors. Baez, who was, I think, leading the American League in errors, would be leading the American League in errors by even more if it wasn't for Torkelson. He's done great, and the defense looked better. Number 5, the young starter depth. That goes without saying. I mean, they've had 16 different starters. They have started so many different guys this past year, whether it be Brisky, who it sucks he was about to come back and he got hurt again. And I hope he comes back because I love Brisky. I think he's got a bulldog mentality. And I think once he really develops a third pitch to go along with that really good changeup. The thing I love about Brisky is he's got the pitch that most young starters struggle with the most to harness. Is a changeup. Because you can have a really good slider and you can have a really good fastball, but most times guys that are a 2-pitch pitcher that can't develop a third, which most of the time is the changeup, they have the hardest time being starters. Those are the guys who usually turn relievers because changeup is such a field pitch, and when you have the kind of movement and the kind of deception that Brisky's does, that's a step in the right direction. And it's not like he doesn't have a good slider either, and his fastball sits firm. He's a good mid to low 90s fastball guy. His command, he had for a while there, he was having a big problem throwing first pitches, getting hit out of the ballpark. But, he's been really good, and I hope he comes back this year. And then Faedo did a really good job. Like, Faedo had his first 7 starts. He didn't give up more than 2 runs in any of them. Did a really good job. And then Joey Wentz, he only had 2 starts, but he would have had more. But that second start he had was great. And just seeing the ability for all these guys, for the Tigers to go through so many dudes, and even Garrett Hill. Like, Garrett Hill's ERA doesn't look pretty, but Garrett Hill made some really nice starts. And then seeing, like, guys like Tyler Alexander, just be able to flip-flop roles out of the bullpen and into the rotation. Or the return of Daniel Norris, even though he's back in the bullpen again. And he has had some good starts. The Tigers were able to somehow piece together this pitching staff out of so many different pitchers and still end up having statistically a really good pitching staff this past season. They're not going to be a top 10 pitching staff, I think, in ERA by the time it's all done. I think they'll be closer to the 20s. But if you watch this team on an every single day basis like you and I do, you know that the Tigers pitching staff more times than not have put up really good start after really good start. And it's insane considering they've been through so many different starters. Number 7, fun moments with the kids, seeing all these debuts, seeing first major league hits, seeing the family reactions. Cody Clemens' home run against Joe Mantiply, the only left-handed home run he's given up all season in Arizona, great. Kerry Carpenter hitting 2 in 2 days in Cleveland and absolutely going off, great. Riley Greene having half the cycle in Texas, or some of the diving catches he made in Arizona, or his walk-off home run against Kansas City. Or even Spencer Torkelson. My favorite Spencer Torkelson moment of the season, it's not even close, is that second series of the year when Torkelson, in the 8th inning, hit a ball, I forget who it was off of, but he hit a go-ahead home run in the 8th inning, and it was the longest home run he's hit in the big leagues this year. And it was an absolute bomb off of the retired numbers thing, that restaurant back there. That's just been absolutely great, seeing these kind of moments. Yeah, they sucked, and, when you have to start that many kids, it means your team's really bad. But, it's been fun to watch, and it's been cool to see some of these guys come up and just how special it's been for them, and you seeing their families and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool to see, and especially when they succeed. And last but not least, Al Avila going is probably the best positive out of the 2021 season. It was time. He had 7 years. The Tigers have only had 1 winning season underneath him, and he needed to go. And I'm very excited to see who the next guy is going to be that the Tigers bring in and lead the next part of the Tigers' direction, whether you want to call it Rebuild 2.0, whether you want to call it Refresh 2023. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be, because we don't know who the GM is going to be. We don't know if they want to take a step back, take a step forward. We don't know if they're going to sign free agents. But that has been an absolutely huge positive of the 2022 season. The guy that needed to go the most is finally gone, and they can hopefully have some direction for 2023. So, I apologize for the length of this video. If you made it this far, you're a fucking badass, because this is a long video. I was trying to make it 15 minutes long, but I failed desperately at that. So I got for you guys this week. I will be back next Sunday unless something happens midweek. Maybe I'll make a midweek episode about the September call-ups and who they call up and how they fit in. I'm going to do that this week. So expect a midweek episode when they finally do the September call-ups, and we'll see how they fit in with the rosters. So I got for you guys today. Go Tigers.